So in order to define the work and the assignment process, the project team leaders then decide on a technical approach for how to do the work. They will address the set of questions amongst which few will be discussed here. So should the work be broken down in a phased approach? Will the project team outsource some of the work or subcontract to other companies? Once the project team has decided on a technical approach, it develops a work breakdown structure to establish manageable elements of work. So the project team leaders will have some technical way or plan that how to perform the type of the work in order to complete the project. So for the purpose, they will consider the set of questions in which they will decide that should the work be broken down into phased approach. So according to the type of the work, it would be decided by the project team that they should adopt the outsourcing for some work or not. To get some service or product from a third party is basically called outsourcing. For this purpose, we will hire some contractors into the company. So next, once the project team will decide the technical approach, a work breakdown structure will be developed to establish the manageable elements of the work. So after defining the type of the approach in order to describe that how to do the work, it will help us to develop a work breakdown structure. So the work breakdown structure will contain the manageable units of the work to be performed. The team then develops activity definition for the work involved in each activity on the work breakdown structure. So every activity will be defined by the team to define the work which will be involved in each activity of the work breakdown structure. So next we have the last step is basically assigning the work which we have defined previously. Once the project manager and the project team have broken down the work into manageable elements, the project manager assigns work to the organizational units. So after the decomposition of the work of larger units into the smaller manageable units, the project manager will assign the work to different organizational units. The project manager often bases these work assignments on where the work fits in the organizations and uses an organizational breakdown structure to conceptualize the process. So these assignments will be based on where the work will be fits in the organization, and it will be held using the organizational breakdown structure to conceptualize the process. An organization breakdown structure is a specific type of organizational chart that shows which organizational units are responsible for which work items. An organization is basically composed on set of organizational units. So OBS is a specific type of organizational chart which shows that organizational units are responsible for what type of work items they need to perform. The OBS can be based on a journal organizational chart and then broken down into more detail based on specific units within the department in the company or units in any subcontracted companies. The organizational breakdown structure is based on the journal organizational chart, and that will be broken down into more detail, which will be based on the specific units within the department in a company or organization or a unit in any subcontracted companies. For example, the OBS categories might include software development or hardware development training. So these units of the organization can be the software development units or the hardware development units or the training units. So So next we will focus on what is a responsibility assignment matrix, which is also called RAM. After developing an organizational breakdown structure, the project manager can develop a responsibility assignment matrix. So, after the development of OBS, now this is the time for the project manager to develop a responsibility assignment matrix. A responsibility assignment matrix does the mapping of the work of the project as described in the work breakdown structure to the people responsible for performing the work, like described in OBS before. So, responsibility assignment matrix is a way that will shows that which work of the project will be assigned to which persons and who will be responsible for performing those tasks as described in the work breakdown structure. The responsibility assignment matrix allocates work to responsibles and performing organizations, teams, or individuals depending on desired level of detail. So what a RAM does is basically it allocates or assigns the work to the responsibles, and those responsibles can be the organization, the team, any individual. It will depend on the desired level of detail. So for smaller projects, it is best to assign the individual people to the work breakdown structure activities. In order to manage the smaller project, it is not necessary to design a responsibility assignment matrix. Same things can be achieved using a work breakdown structure activities assignment to the individual persons. For very large projects, it is more effective to assign the work to the organizational units or teams. To manage the large project, we will assign the type of the work to the organizational units or different teams, rather than performing those tasks by the individual persons, because large projects are difficult to manage as well as their complexity level varies as compared to the small scale projects. So now we have a sample responsibility assignment matrix, which is also called RAM. Here we have the organizational breakdown structure units, and here we have the set of activities which will be taken from the work breakdown structure. So R represents the responsible organizational units and P represents the performing organizational units. Who is responsible and who is performing will be mentioned in respective cells of this particular responsibility assignment matrix. As we can see that 1.1.1 activity is basically assigned to system engineering unit, and this unit is responsible for this particular activity completion. Similarly, activity 1.1.1 will be performed by the testing engineering unit. So in addition to using a responsibility assignment matrix to assign the detailed work activities, you can use it to define the journal roles and responsibilities on a project. In order to show the assigned detailed work by the responsibility assignment matrix, you can use this responsibility assignment matrix to define the journal roles and responsibilities on the project according to the set of activities they need to perform. This type of responsibility assignment matrix can include the stakeholders in the project. Some organizations uses RACI charts to show 4 key roles for the project stakeholders. So the type of responsibility assignment matrix which can be used to show the roles and responsibilities by the stakeholders in a project, a RACI chart can be used by some organizations to show the 4 key roles for the project stakeholders. So what does RACI stands for? RACI stands for responsible, accountable, consulted, informed. So each letter represents a level of task responsibility. So what is responsibility? Responsibility is basically who will perform the task or who does the task. Who is responsible for the completion of the particular task is represented by R. The next we have the accountability. And accountability means who signs off on the task or has authority for it. So who will be accountable for the task completion for a specific type of activity or which has the authority for the completion of that task. In order to check the progress of an activity, the project manager will define a person who will be accountable for the completion of that particular task.